Hello and welcome to coverage of GP Detroit. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen, and we're ready for round number 13 where we have, well, a lot of friends playing against each other down in the feature match here. We have the Matt Nass, Jacob Wilson, Sam Pardee. That's the right side of your screen. In this case, that's Jacob Wilson. On the left, Luis Scott Vargas. We've seen a lot of him in the feature match area with his teammates Ben Stark and Eric Froelich, but for good reason. They haven't lost yet.
Yeah, they are the team of Eternal Watch this weekend.
They're not 4-6. So
that's for sure.
Yeah. Is there a 12-0 creature in Magic? No, right? There was a 0. Anyway.
No, I don't think so.
So here's the deal. Sitting at 11-1. Wow, by the way, okay, timeout on that. What? Are you kidding me? This Boggart Brute just picked up 2 Infectious Bloodlust?
Yes. He is very diseased and very, very
So it has double
right?
haste and double must attack each turn if able?
Yes.
And double +2/+1?
Yes.
As it were?
So
we
are talking about a 7/4 Boggart Brute.
Now, we note here, though, that Jacob is tapped out.
Yeah.
So there is a block here. It would take out both of the creatures.
And Jacob would be able to search up some more Infectious Bloodlust. I don't know how many he has, but
we don't have his list yet.
Oh, I think
maybe we've
we're
got
just getting it.
All right, there we go. So let's take a look and see how many.
He has 3 copies.
Okay, so he
can
can
search
do
up
one
one
more.
more.
So this actually works out favorably for Scott Vargas if he were to double block here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it ends up just being a 2-for-2.
A 2-for-2, right?
Yeah.
Then again, not taking 7 damage isn't bad.
Yeah, not taking 7 damage against the mono red deck.
This is a super important decision. Oh, and I see why.
Yeah, oh,
He's
has a
got
Separatist
Void Mage ×2 in his hand, but no island.
Yeah, and
so if he had an
beautiful.
island, he's like, take it.
Yeah,
and then just bounce the
win.
Brute, and then the game effectively ends.
Yeah.
But that is not the scenario here for Luis Scott Vargas, and he decided not to risk it. He said, you know what? He's going to go get another Infectious Bloodlust. I'm going to be able to blank that with one of my Void Mages at some point. And I'm just going to ride the fact that the Void Mage is a strong card.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, Luis is at 20 still. And I'm assuming that his top end is going to be more powerful. The top end for red cards in this format is not that great. And it looks like Jacob's... Oh, he's red-white, so he could have some top end from the white cards. And he does. He actually has a Hixus Prison Warden in his deck.
Okay, well, in the meantime... We're going to see a Wyvern hit the table here after the Subterranean Scout picked up the Bloodlust, got haste, got in there for 4 damage. But I'm assuming we're going to see one of those 2 Void Mages kind of wreck the party here.
Yeah, I mean, that just
Jacob Wilson.
Like a slam dunk here. It's possible that he has something even better, though. I think before we actually saw that Luis Scott Vargas also has Hixus in his deck.
He does.
So if he's passing the turn here, then that
he has it
tells me that he has it.
Yeah, and I actually saw it, too. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the difference here, of course, being that he will take a bit more damage, but he's going to add a 4 power, 4 toughness body to the table this turn and still take care of the Scout. Then he'll have 6 power to work with, and he can go whatever you play, bounce it, whatever you play, bounce it, and that's got to get the job done here. I think it's going to be very difficult for Wilson to win this game from this position.
Absolutely, and I mean, he doesn't even have a card that just one-shots to kill the Hixus. Like, there are no black cards in his deck. He doesn't have Exquisite Firecraft. The white cards don't, get your Subterranean Scout back, so this is not a good thing for Jacob Wilson. He's getting 2 for 1 tonight. Brutal fashion. 3 for 1 even.
I think the word is screwed.
Yeah.
He's really in a bad shape here is Jacob Wilson. He's also didn't affect the board this turn. Really?
Oof.
Knightly Valor as well. That plays around Ravaging Blaze, because even if Jacob had it, he could only do it for 3. And crunch goes the team. And this one's going to be over mighty quick. And that's it. That's game 1 going to Luis Scott Vargas. The all-in play from Jacob Wilson does not pan out for him. You see Eric with a little smirk there, like, hey, that feels good. Now he's got to get back down to business here. We're going to jump to our top table. That's Ben Stark on the left. Ben hasn't lost a match yet. And I'm talking about from yesterday.
Yeah, he's just 12-0.
Yeah, some of the matches finished before, so he's something like 10-0.
That's fair.
You know, but still. And classic Ben Starks, by the way, I asked him about it. I said, hey, nice work, dude. He goes, I think I drew slightly luckier than the average, blah, blah, you know, and he just started doing that. And that's being humble. You know, he was just being humble. But in reality, the fact that he's one of the best limited players ever didn't hurt, you know, just didn't hurt that he also had that skill set in his pocket.
He's funny about that type of stuff. But when he 9-0'd with the terrible blue-green deck about a year ago in San Jose or San Diego, wherever that was, I asked him about it afterward, and I was like, how did you 9-0 with this deck? And he was like, well, I got really lucky.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm sure you got lucky.
Yeah. But to his credit, he is reasonable about those type of things, because you know what he also told me? He goes, look, I had good draws. He said, I think if you gave this to, like, you know, somebody else, maybe they'd be X1, and I squeaked out a win that maybe they wouldn't have. You know, like he's saying, it wasn't just that, like, I was playing like some god all day and just wrecking everybody. Yeah. He was just like, look, I had really fortunate draws, and maybe because of my skill set, I was able to, squeak out a little more than your average player, but, you know, not a lot. I was like, yeah, sure, Ben. All right, here's Unholy Hunger to take down the Giant and potentially clear the way for Matt Nass to attack with the Seismic Elemental.
Okay, Ben could have thrown his team in front there.
Could have.
Yeah, I guess it opens yourself to get blown out by the Fiery Impulse or Titan Strength.
Yeah, both of those, actually. Ouch. He will have to deal with the Elemental at some point here, though. He can't sit forever, so something to affect the board should be good.
And Shambling Ghoul doing a very good job of holding off the entire team there. For just 2 mana, that 2/3 body does a lot of work in this format. 2/3s in general, just pretty strong in Magic Origins. We've seen how good Watercourser can be throughout the weekend. And that 3rd point of toughness on the back end, that's quite good here.
All right, so Shambling Ghoul hits the bin thanks to the Javelin, and of course, that's also going to get a little scry action going there. It's going to hit the bottom, though, this time. Steal this thing. Okay, now we got some business here.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a big hit down to 6 here for Nass.
Yeah, I like that attack from Ben. I mean, he's just using his active treason as exquisite firecraft to you. You know, he is very aggressively setting up his game plan. He knows what his top card is, so that could certainly affect his decision-making process here.
Who does? I think he bottomed it, right, Ben?
Oh, he bottomed it?
I think he bottomed it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So.
But
he knows it's not a bad card, or at least not that bad card. Oh, no! Active treason fight. All right, so that's 6 damage to knock Ben down to 5. He follows up with a Gear per Gearcrafter, which he played so quickly I thought for some reason he was just going to win the game. Oh, Ravaging Blaze, your 2/1, and that's going to do it for 6, and that's actually game. Right there, no attack needed. Ben Stark finds the line and is up 1-0 over Matt Nass, who doesn't look pleased about it, but who would?
Yeah, I mean, that actually looked like it could have been anybody's game from
it did.
Any point there.
Haymakers back and forth for sure. Sam Pardee on the near table here. Another beard fight, by the way. How did that happen? Sam takes his game, over Ifro for the first one. So they're going to be consulting their sideboards here. Wow, that was some haymakers.
Yeah, that was a lot of back and forth there. And what's interesting is that because of the color combination we're seeing on the top end there, those two players playing against one another, we're not really going to see much sideboard action in terms of like defense from either player. I guess they hypothetically could have cards like Return Centaur and things like that to try to gum up the ground a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But cards like that are generally better when you're fighting against these white aggressive decks or, red low to the ground aggressive decks. When the red decks are like going wide or they're combined with black and they're using cards like Active Treason, siding in more expensive creatures that trump their cards is actually pretty dangerous. So this is a strange battle, table A there between Ben Stark and Matt Nass, where sideboarding options are going to be incredibly limited for that black-red matchup.
And they're all getting their sideboard on now and taking the time to consult each other and their teammates about, would you bring this in, would you bring that in?
Yeah, and I believe earlier we've seen Luis Scott Vargas and his sideboard plans against aggressive red strategies have been working out very well for him. Cards like Aven Battle Priest,
yes.
A card you wouldn't necessarily expect to see in a format like Team Sealed. has actually been quite good for him here, allowing him to restabilize when his life total gets low against these decks that are trying to go wide.
Cleric of the Forward Order.
Yeah, another great card for Luis here.
That's out of his sideboard.
It is out of his sideboard.
Yeah, he you know, in Team Sealed you have so many playables that even a card that, like say in Booster Draft, you would play basically all the time in your white deck. Those can sit on the bench and come in when you need it against an aggressive deck, which is again exactly where Luis finds himself paired up. I mean, this is the same deck he faced Huey with, right? And Huey was mono red, so it's like Wilson also mono red. It's like he just keeps getting the same matchup.
Yeah, I think Wilson actually has some white cards, so we didn't see him play a Plains in the game prior, unfortunately for him.
All right, so we're underway here. It looks like it's red-white here for Wilson, by the way. So Topin Freeblade versus a Cleric of the Forward Order.
Topin Freeblade definitely the better of these two in a racing situation, or
In every.
pretty much every situation.
So I guess when you're in the life game. Yeah, well, here we go. We kind of knew this was coming. If you're seeing Luis Scott Vargas' seed, it looks like, you know, Jacob Wilson has 1 million infectious bloodlust. He, in fact, has 3.
Oh, this is going to be a really good turn for Luis.
What is he going to do?
He's going to steal the play.
Oh, very nice. Knight of the White Orchid, meaning that Luis is down a land, so when he plays it, he gets a free Plains from his library onto the battlefield untapped, but he still has a land drop this turn if he wants it too.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you could play 2 2-drops on that same turn. And what's especially nice about this is Knight of the White Orchid's...
Oh, look at this. Enlightened Ascetic just to get a little 2-for-1 here, although I hesitate to use the term because the Ascetic's just a 1-1, but it's close enough.
Yeah. I mean,
close enough.
It does have trading value in this matchup. I mean, you are playing against a red-white deck, so you already saw Jacob Wilson playing cards like Subterranean Scout, Goblin Glory Chaser. So that Ascetic is actually going to have the ability to trade off with one of Jacob Wilson's creatures, and the long game definitely favors Luis Scott Vargas here.
And interestingly, as the board sits, the short game does as well. I mean, he's ahead now anyway. So Wilson's going to attack and use his Anointer of Champions to get in an extra point of damage to knock Luis down to 13, and then he's going to fire off Suppression Bonds on the Topin Freeblade. But that clears the way for 3 damage, cracking back on Wilson. And what's the follow-up play here for Scott Vargas? Not a bad one at all. A Stalwart Aven, and then he passes the turn back.
Yeah, so he's going to be taking another 3 here, at least. But, I mean, his life total will still be at 10. At this point, he's really in no danger, and now his board is just getting out of hand here. Charging Griffin matches up pretty well against the Stalwart Aven here.
And now a Sigiled Starfish as well to help Scott Vargas power himself into the late part of the game and make sure that he keeps drawing spells, while Jacob Wilson, as we saw for this turn, drew a land.
Yeah, Sigil Starfish, very fun card to play with.
Oh, I love that card.
Yeah, it blocks most of the 2-drops, while it's also fixing your draws all day long.
Some people call it Scryfish.
Scryfish?
Yeah. It's kind of cute.
Starfish are pretty amazing animals. Have the joy of catching them in the ocean.
Yeah, I actually saw one at the ocean last summer, and you know what I thought of? Sigiled Starfish.
Yeah, that's what I think
Magic
of.
player.
Yeah.
All right, so here comes Charging Griffin and a Cleric of the Forward Order, but we're going to see a double block here by Scott Vargas. So he's kind of forcing the issue with this Anointer of Champions here, saying, okay, if you want to get rid of these, you got to use it now. And that's exactly what happened. So, you know, he effectively traded the knight there for the other knight.
And things have really swung here in Jacob Wilson's favor. Anointer of Champions just really proving itself to be so strong in these combat situations. It just really makes it hard for your opponent to ever have a good block. And
even now that the Stalwart Aven is renowned, it still doesn't going to have a good block even next turn on the Aven, on the Charging Griffin. And look at this, one more turn. Dragon Fodder resolves. So Scott Vargas now has to find some way to interact with either the Charging Griffin or their Anointer, or this thing's going to be in the books. I mean, it looked like he had turned the corner, right? He's
Yeah, and he just
flooding
drew-
hard.
yeah.
Wow, all lands in hand
Yeah.
even after having a sigiled starfish. And Wilson finds the victory. So 1 game apiece on our middle table there.
Jacob Wilson, when we watched him earlier, he actually did win a match. Fun fact.
Congrats.
Very well done there.
Did it count? Was it a real one?
Well, both of his teammates had already won, but I think they included it on the slip. So
Okay. Oh, baby. Here we go. How about we jump down to Eric Froelich versus Sam Pardee and get ready to have your senses overloaded here because Sam Pardee, he's got a Mythic Uncommon Sky Snare Spider.
yes,
He's got an actual rare with Alhammaret High Arbiter, and he's got another actual rare with the Colossus up there.
yeah, those are some good cards on the table right now.
No kidding.
That Fetidim is doing a good amount of work here, but it can only deal with one of them. Now it can't deal with any. Separatist Void Mage comes down, bounces the Fetidim, now clears the way for Sam Pardee to get in there with Sky Snare Spider, Alhammaret, Undercity Troll, even his Colossus comes in. It's just...
Things not looking good for Eric Froelich in this game. I suppose it must be said, though. This is... right now, Pardee's board state just savagely outclasses what Ifro has put together here. So Eric's going to have to find a way out of this mess. Now, this isn't too bad for him. He is
definitely be
not
worse.
dead on board.
I mean, he throws away his team. He's just facing
Is
down
this
a
Might of the
5/5
Masses,
flying,
though?
and yeah, that would do it.
That would do it. He's triple blocked the Spider with a 2/3, a 2/2, and a 2/2. Theoretically trading 2 of those off for the Spider. The Farika's Disciple would trade for the Colossus, and he would take 8, dropping him to 4. Oh, it wasn't that. It was actually Disperse.
Oh, wow, and that's great. And we'll notice here that he uses the Disperse on the 2/3, even though it's the biggest of the creatures, and that's because the other 2 creatures both have come into play abilities.
And also, that one does too. Comes
Yeah.
into play tapped. So that's going to do it for that match. Sam Pardee, 1 to the good for his team, defeats Eric Froelich. No small feat there. It's party time.
Yeah,
Now,
Sam Pardee, always
great.
at work, you know.
Oh, he's great, yeah. And here's a Mage Ring Bully for Ben Stark as he's looking to try to even this thing up and force a deciding match between Scott Vargas and Wilson. If he can win this game, he'll have won 1 match for his team, and with Pardee's match, that means there's only 1 left.
It's so harrowing playing against a player who you know has Ravaging Blaze. When you lose 1 game to it, I
just
find that you
live
end
in
up playing.
fear.
Yeah, you play games 2 and 3 so differently as a result.
All right, Matt Nass has a Despoiler of Souls here, which doesn't look very good against the really aggressive deck. I'm somewhat surprised to see that in. I mean, his deck is trying to be somewhat aggressive, but, you know, you look at the cards like Graveblade Marauder and stuff in his yard there. I think he's a little more of the Black-Red Sacrifice deck than anything.
It does do some, you know, a little bit of work. Yeah, it's a pretty
Makes me
big one.
Cringe a little, you know?
Yeah. But, I mean, Anointer of Champions also much better on the attack, but that's also just a much better card than the Spoiler.
Yeah,
so
I think it is, too. Well, we'll see if Nass can make it work. Right now, he's got Ben Stark's board whittled down to just a Husk and a Goblin token. We see that there's 7 lands in play, though, for Stark, who's drawn his fair share, as has Nass also on 7 lands. So we're pretty deep into the game here. The graveyards are relatively full as well. Oh.
All right. So on a Holy Hunger, going to go ahead and take out Nantuko Husk there. So let's see what Matt can put together on this turn. He's still at 11, so still has a little bit of a pad to his life total. It seems like both players are still drawing off the top here.
Meanwhile, Goblin token hits the bin. Matt Nass draws his card for the turn, and he's found something. It's a Gear per Gear Crafter.
Just so good. I mean, even just this little 3-drop creature. When we've seen that card drawn in the mid to late game, it's always performed quite well. I mean, it's just such a powerful common.
Oh, well, it's also something to steal for enthralling victories. He's going to take the Gear Crafter as a 2/1 and rumble with both creatures.
And here, if you're in Matt Nass's seat, I feel like trading the Thopter for the Goblin seems pretty good.
You like that?
Yeah.
It leaves you with just the Gear Crafter versus the Enthralling Victor, which kind of hold each other at bay.
Yeah. I mean, kind of stabilizes you a little bit. At this point, I think you'd be happy to be in a top deck war as opposed to just, you know, having to, you know, deal with this type of board on the other end. Oh, interesting. So he's going to lose both of his creatures.
You know, you got to think that Ben's happy about that. Is this Matt living in fear of that?
That Ravaging Blaze?
Ravaging
I mean,
Blaze?
it certainly has a lot to do with it. Oh, but it also has to do with
Eyelight Massacre. Well,
Eyelight Massacre.
all right. So, again, both players doing a very good job of keeping the board clear. This also means that Despoiler Souls gets to come back because he had another creature in his graveyard. And there it is, ready to start beating down.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I spoke too soon on that one. It looks pretty good here.
Yeah, I have lost games to my opponent grinding me out with that card already.
Okay.
So.
Oh, speaking of grinding, here's a Hellhound as well. And this thing could be over quickly.
Matt Nass has definitely turned the corner here, and looks like we're probably seeing game 3 in our first match. All right, so you're Ben deep in the tank. Ben, the type of guy who's going to think through all of these decisions before he's going to commit to anything.
Yeah, we might actually jump to our middle match here. Why don't we do that now? Because they're playing a game 3 that could actually decide the match here, where this game will not decide the match, as it sits at least. So, and also this one could be over quickly with how fast, how fast these players play, but also how fast the deck of Jacob Wilson is. And yeah, it looks like Luis is in trouble here. He's at 6. This is his upkeep. He's using the Sigiled Starfish to try to find something. It looks like
a rough spot.
Yeah, the Blessed Spirits is on the beatdown path here.
But we do know that he has multiple copies of Separatist Void Mage, so if he can find his way to one of those,
he's drawing extra cards too.
Yeah, still 2 cards off the top. Still neither of those Separatist Void Mages, and he's dead.
Wow, he couldn't find a second Plains there.
Yeah.
He had Hixus in his hand already.
Yeah, but the Evolving Wild's also coming to play tap there.
Yep. And so that actually does it right there. That's the match. Sam Partney and Jacob Wilson win their matches for their team, and that seals the deal. So they keep their dream alive. Now, looking at the standings here, 11-1. They're going to improve to 12-1. That's the first loss of the weekend for Froelich, Scott Vargas, and Stark. And they're going to be at 12-1 as well. So both of these teams still primed very much to make the top 8. In fact, they're both, or top 4, excuse me. I think they're both likely to. All right, that's going to do it for round 13 here from Detroit.